Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here, and today I have for you guys the Yae in its solo Dendro, 1x Dendro AggraSpread comp. So I actually talked about this previously, right? In the Yae Tighnari Math Guide comp, where we focus on Yae's figures, Yae's damage. So now, this is the alternative rotation, and I'm going to cover the comp itself, Kazuha versus Sucrose for this comp, the rotation, the Yae strike buff and reactions per second breakdown, important note and assumptions, energy, damage in EC com, and then we do a comparison between the two. Yeah, because I saw some requests on the comparison with regards to Yae main, right? That's okay. I mean, since we are doing this, I also think that the new 3.0 is looking really good for Yae, to be honest. Okay, so we have the TLDR after that and what's coming for the next video. Alright, so without further ado, let's go into the comic itself. Now, I briefly mentioned this in the previous Yae Math Guide 4, this is Yae Math Guide 5. So as of now, the Dendro support options, there aren't a lot of, right? It's only Dendro Traveler or Collei, but I prefer Collei for allergy, longer Dendro uptime, and also her EM buff is party wide, although it's locked behind C4. But Traveler or main character DMC, right? Dendro main character DMC. So the problem with DMC is that it's active field only, so it only buffs one character at a time, assuming you're playing single player. So Traveler's EM skilling does look interesting, potential wise. I'll probably do a math guide for Dendro Traveler. Maybe that will be the next video. As for the Dendro support, right, in this specific comp itself, you can use either 4 Noblesse or 4 Tenacity for the attack percentage buff. In fact, Dendro Traveler can't use Tenacity, he can't keep it uptime. He or she can't keep it uptime with a decent uptime. But as for Collei, she actually can because of the weird sprout words if you have C2. C2 Collei. But no worries, to simplify things, I will use 4 Noblesse here, this video. And as for the Yae Miko, scaling off EM provided by C4 Collei, Allergy, Sucrose, and Dendro Resonance on top of already nice damage is pretty good. I'll show you guys the stats later, no worries. Now, the next or the third slot is the Flex Electro slot. Any electro character with sub DPS capability and good electro battery will do really. In particular, I prefer Fisher or Raiden. Because we'll be using TTODS on Sucrose, we can't really funnel electro E particles Yae. And both Fisher and Raiden, they don't really funnel. Their energy generation is just, there's no funneling required. Cookie's energy generation is over time too, so she's a feasible electro healer to use here as well, especially if you want a healer. Now, as for Sucrose slash Kazuha, both are feasible. I'll do a detailed comparison here next. Okay, you can tell that it's detailed, right? When there's so many space here, it means that there's a lot of sections. Okay, now Kazuha versus Sucrose for this Yae Collei Raiden comp. Now, I personally prefer Raiden because I mentioned in Math Guide 4, for Yae Math Guide 4 before, that Raiden she feels that on-field time void in this comp. Now, first off, before I begin the comparison, okay, I'm not a Kazuha sim, I am not a Sucrose sim. I like Sucrose, but not to the extent of being a sim. I have all characters at level 90, so no sour grip situation. I'm not flexing, by the way. I just see no point in logical sims arguments. Okay, this is a objective comparison purely based on the math figures. Hope that's clear. Now, let's talk about the damage percentage bonus given to Yae by both Sucrose and Kazuha. So during their 8 seconds queue, whether it's Sucrose queue or Kazuha's queue, yes, I know Sucrose base is 6 seconds, but with one of the conditions she gets 8 seconds, so we're gonna use that. Because I'm gonna use C6 Sucrose to compare. If you don't have C6 Sucrose, then she just falls off. There's nothing to compare. Okay, so 8 seconds of Kazuha or Sucrose queue, plus a R1 allergy plus C4 Collei buffs, what you get from C6 Sucrose is a total of 53% for Yae. Why? Because Yae skills of EM. If it's not Yae, you're not gonna get this type of percentage bonus. It will always be 20% from C6 Sucrose. And Kazuha you have, if you have C2 Kazuha, you will give 54% to Yae. If you have C0 Kazuha, then it's 46%. So 46% is lower than the say Sucrose. So you can see how important the EM scaling is here, at least for Yae. Okay, I shouldn't say how important, but how big of an impact it has. Now, there's also another scenario, right? Maybe you do not have allergy, you do not have C4 Collei. So during 8 seconds Q without buffs, Sucrose, C6 Sucrose gives you 48%. C2 Sucrose gives you, sorry, C2 Kazuha gives you 47%, and C0 Kazuha gives you 39%. I'll talk about the EM that I have here. Now, this is only during their 8 seconds of Q. The rotation obviously lasts longer than the 8 seconds of Q. So after Q without buffs, why do I say after and not before? Because before you're still setting up stuff in the rotation, so you don't really need to consider the before. Now, after Q without buffs, C6 Sucrose basically gives 28%. Because, okay, so first off, I should say Sucrose gives you 28%. This is purely from her EM buff to Yae, and the Yae scaling off of that EM bonus EM. C2 Kazuha gives you 39%. C0 Kazuha also gives you 39% because the Q effect is over. Once the Q effect is over, both of their effect is gone. The 200 EM from C2 Kazuha is gone. The CC Sucrose 20% damage bonus is gone. Okay. So you see the after Q without buffs, Kazuha does do significantly more. While C2 Kazuha basically is pretty much the same as CC Sucrose. C0 Sucrose does fall off slightly compared to CC Sucrose, but this is very, very specific to this scenario where Yae skills off EM and we have a lot of EM buffs in team. Okay, even without buff, there is that difference, yeah? So I should say that it is really the EM skilling on Yae. So, like I said, the above includes EM skilling from Sucrose, but I have intentionally excluded C2 Kazuha's EM skilling for Yae, since Yae will not be on field within Kazuha's Q. I mean, she may be on field for a little moment, but she's not going to be on field all the time, so it doesn't make sense to include the 200 EM that C2 Kazuha gets to Yae. This difference you see here is the 200 EM to Kazuha, which does not require him to be on the field. He is not required to be in the field for the 200 EM on C2 Kazuha, on himself. But all other characters, yes. Okay? So before you say that this is not realistic, right? Or biased, right? I've already removed C2 Kazuha's EM scaling for Yae. I assume that the 200 EM from C2 Kazuha, Yae does not benefit from it. Okay? Now, this is based on 985 EM Kazuha without buffs. It's my Kazuha. And 692 EM without buffs as well, Sucrose, when she's using TLDS. Now, obviously, I can get higher EM with Sacrificial, but I'll talk more about that later. Now, before you cry unfair, okay? If you cry unfair because my EM there's a difference, right? Just know that artifact stats alone, Kazuha has 671 EM, Sucrose has 692. So I'm not being unfair here. They are more or less the same in terms of their artifact stats. Pet Sucrose has slightly more EM. Now the difference here is because Kazuha is using a weapon that's giving him EM, his Ascension stat is also giving him EM. Okay? It's that straightforward. Now, using TTODS is still better than Sacrificial Fragments for buffing Yae's damage. That 48% attack is a very decent buff. Okay? Now, so to summarize this, right, essentially a C2 Kazuha will pretty much buff the same as C6 Sucrose with R1 allergy plus C4 Collei buffs during the 8 seconds Q. But he does buff 11% more than Sucrose after, which also happens to be 8 seconds in the rotation. 8 seconds worth of Yae E damage and Raiden 7 seconds Q plus 1 E. So in other words, you look at C2 Kazuha, is very straightforward, right? Basically, it's better in terms of damage bonus because for the first 8 seconds, since using the animal character, C2 Kazuha buff pretty much the same as the CC Sucrose, but the next 8 seconds after, he buffs 11% more than Sucrose. Okay, now let's talk about C0 Kazuha. A C0 Kazuha will buff 7% less than C6 Sucrose with R1 allergy plus C4 Collei buffs during the 8 second Q. If there's no R1 allergy plus C4 Collei buff, it's actually still 7%. To be honest, you look at this, right? is the difference doesn't change. Okay, with or without. The difference of the R1 allergy plus T4 Collei buffs here is always 7%. You realize? Okay, very straightforward, yeah? Now, oh wait, sorry, 7% is with the buff, sorry. Without buff, it's 9%, what I'm saying. Yeah, my apologies. So 7%, 9%. Okay. Now, although C0 Kazuha buffs 7% less in the first 8 seconds, it buffs 11% more than Sucrose after, which is the 8 seconds after. So generally speaking, you can still say that a C0 Kazuha still gives you more damage bonus total. Okay? So you have 7% less at one point and 11% more at one point, get off, you get about. I mean, the math doesn't really work that way, but for me to make it in a very, very simple term, you still get a little bit more. Okay? Now, let's go on to talk about attack percentage buffs. Now, I'm assuming you have FS here. If you don't have FS here, then obviously Sucrose does even better, right? But let's say if you have FS for your Kazuha, let's talk about R1 R5 FS in case you have R5 FS, right? So from the weapon itself, either TTODS or FS, Sucrose gives you 48%, R5 FS gives you 40%, R1 gives you 20%. Now, if you have an R1 allergy from Collei, that gives another 20% that stack on top of the Sucrose 48%. But here's the thing. The Millennial Weapon series, which is both allergy and FS, their attack buff do not stack. They override each other. The EM and the NAC bonus do not override each other, but the attack bonus does. Okay? So what happens here is that if you have a 40% 40% attack from R5 FS, that will override the R1 allergy, so your total is 40%. You have a R1 FS, then because FS happens later than the Collei, right? In the com, if I'm not wrong. Whichever comes later gets the overwritten. I can't remember exactly who comes first. But no, wait. I can't remember whether it's the higher attack that gets it first or the overwritten. But the main thing that I'm trying to drive towards here, the main point that I'm trying to drive here is that it cannot stack. The allergy and FS cannot stack, and that is a detriment to Kazuha. So basically total attack bonuses, right? You can get like 88%, including from Collei as well. Compared to Kazuha, you get either 60% or 40% with R1 FS. So with TTODS, Sucrose buffs more than Kazuha because the attack bonuses from allergy and FS cannot stack. But Kazuha is able to buff the first 5 seconds of Raiden's Q with his FS, but Sucrose is not able to. Sucrose is only able to buff 1%. So there's a bit more team buff being provided by Kazuha, while Sucrose focus fires on Yae's attack. Okay. So conclusion, we talk about the damage bonus attacks, we talk damage bonus and the attack bonus. So to me, Sucrose or the Kazuha really depends on you. Your other team needs and their stats, especially your Sucrose and Kazuha stats. But damage percentage wise, Kazuha is better, even at C0, while attack percentage wise, Sucrose is better for Yae and worse for Raiden. So TLDR, to me, Sucrose is still the budget version for Kazuha, but her performance here is much closer and much better due to Yae's EM skilling. So using her to free up Kazuha for second tier abyss, very nice. It's a very good option. Especially if you don't care about Yae Raiden damage and you don't have FS for Kazuha, then all the more Sucrose will shine even more in this specific comp where the main DPS Yae skills of EM. Now, personally, I would still use Kazuha because I have R5 FS, it's still an increase. And better buffs to Raiden is still better for the overall team DPS because my Raiden is also fully built. Unless I feel like using Kazuha in a second team abyss, then I will use Sucrose. Because like I said, Sucrose is very close here. If you don't have Kazuha, it's fine for you to use Sucrose. If you want to use Kazuha in the second team abyss, it's fine for you to use Sucrose here as well. Now, for the math, right? Since I mentioned Sucrose in Yae Math Guide 4, I'll do math for Sucrose in this math guide. Okay? I should not always do Kazuha, right? I've always been doing Kazuha in my math guides. So yeah, let's do Sucrose this time. Alright, so this is the rotation here. Yeah, so Sucrose or Kazuha happens after Collei. So the 40% that I talk about here still holds. Okay? Now, if you are using Kazuha instead of Sucrose, the action feed as well, right? Just replace Sucrose with Kazuha. So instead of Sucrose EQ is Kazuha EQ. Instead of Sucrose E is Kazuha E. Very straightforward stuff. And the rotation, if you notice, is shorter. Because for the sake of Tighnari, I have to do it 24 seconds, right? 2 12-second halves per se. Whereas for the without Tighnari, I can stick to the longest Q duration. Yeah, sorry, the longest Q cooldown here, which is Yae, 22 seconds. Okay, so this rotation is actually much simpler than the Tighnari one, I would say. I like this rotation. Yeah, it's nice and simple. Alright, now let's talk about Yae's strikes, buffs, and reactions per second breakdown. I hope you guys have been following me with regards to the comparison, as well as the comp, as well as the rotation. I know I didn't specifically go through this, but feel free to pause and just look at it. It made sense. Okay, Sucrose is always before Yae, or rather the first Sucrose is always before Yae, because by this time your TTODS is still on cooldown. Okay, simple as that. And with Raiden E and Yae E's continued off-field application, it's okay to use the Collei Q before the Sucrose EQ. You'll still be able to sway electro. Okay, now let's talk about the... Okay, I'm not going to go through in detail, but basically it's like what I did for the Yae Math Guide 4. Now I know that it's very tedious, and I already said that I will take a more general approach, but because I'm going to be comparing the two of them as well, I thought that it should be fair that I do it to this level, I guess. Okay. So we have like when the aggravates will happen, whether the Q aggravates will happen, etc. And what kind of bars we have at a specific strike at that specific second. I don't know why I'm going to this level of detail. It's a bit too much. Okay, but at least you know that math is accurate. Okay. Alright, now important notes and assumptions. 2TF2 Glads is used here with Kagura's Verity. We are not even using Gilded Dreams yet because I can tell you Gilded Dreams will be better for Yae if your stats are the same. I mean, it's very, very simple, right? You look at this comp. Okay, you look at this comp. There's 2 electro character and 1 animal and 1 Dendro. So for Gilded Dreams, what will you get? You get for the both the 2-piece plus the 4-piece effect added together, you get 180 EM and 24% attack. That is definitely going to be better than a 15% damage with a 18% attack. The 28% attack already beats the 18% attack, right? Okay, now let's talk about gladiators. Sorry. Gladiators is sorry, not gladiators. TF is 15% damage bonus. Okay. Let's quickly show you guys. 27% damage bonus from the 180 EM from the dreams. So it's no brainer. But your stats have to be the same. Your stats have to be equally well rolled. Like for me, right, my 2TF2 Glads is on almost of a perfect stage. If you guys have seen my stats, it's almost perfect really. So yeah, it's gonna take me a long time to get to the same place, but yep, it is slightly better. It is 12% damage bonus and 10% attack better in this comp at least. Sorry, excuse me. Now, Collei is using Allergy with 4 Bliss, non-Bliss, and her A4 passive is assumed to be fulfilled, and she gives plus 3 seconds on her Q. Okay? So our Collei is not using DU memories because she's the single Dendro here and I don't care about her damage. I want Yae's damage to be maximized. So it's 4 Bliss, non-Bliss. Don't worry, eventually I will do a math comparison for Gilded Dreams to see what is the exact percentage, and we'll probably use the same comp here, or the Yae Tighnari. Both comps are feasible really. Let's talk next about Sucrose. Sucrose is using TTODS with 4-piece PV obviously. Raiden has 319.9 ER because of engulfing. Without engulfing you should target 200 to 250 ER on Raiden. Okay? So these are what the team is using basically. This. Now here in the energy, Collei doesn't have any issue. 175 ER is like the minimum I can go with a allergy. Because allergy gives you like 55 ER, C1 gives you 20 ER. You know, so more than enough. Okay. Yae with 116.8 ER, which is what I have on my Yae. You have no energy issues as well. I mean, come on, we have Raiden. once you have Raiden, you can pretty much go 100 ER for most of your characters. And Sucrose also no energy issues. Okay, with 125.9 ER, which is what she had, well, which is what my Sucrose has. Sorry. Now, as usual, it's just energy from the skills. You still get additional energy from enemies, so you can be 10 energy, some scenarios, some scenarios more. But generally speaking, if you target a 10 energy gap, it should always be enough. So like I said, with my Raiden being 390.9 ER, you can pretty much go 100 ER for all the other 3 members. And ER values are all what my characters actually have. And if your Raiden has 250 ER, you need about 110 to 120, and then you go a little bit more as your Raiden ER drops. Okay. Now let's talk about the interesting stuff, which is the Yae damage itself in this comp. Collei, Sucrose, Raiden, Yae. Okay, so before you look at the overall damage, look at the different artifact, right? So it's just a recap because the stats are pretty much the same as the Yae Tighnari Math Guide. So you have the 2P Shime, 2 TF2 Shime, and 2 TF2 Glads, which are actual artifacts with the different stats. And if you remember, on the Yae Tighnari Math Guide, this is better. Its permutation is better, not because of the artifact, but because of what I have, the stats that I have. Okay, and then we have a generic one where we use EM sense instead of attack sense. Okay, so I'll show you guys the damage figures. There's no real big difference from previously. Okay. Oh, and this is the EM. So Sucrose with both allergy and Collei, she's able to buff 852. Okay. And 752 with Collei. Crap. Oh, okay. Sorry. I was a little silent at the moment because I was thinking whether did I miss Dendro resonance. And I just realized, okay, it's a single Dendro, so there's no Dendro resonance. I was thinking whether I missed Dendro resonance for the Sucrose EM buff. Phew. Okay, so this is correct. Okay, this is correct. There's no Dendro resonance. That's why there's no figures here. I remove it here. Okay. So basically, Sucrose is able to buff. Sucrose will get 852 EM with both of these buff available. If obviously if you don't have then your Sucrose stays at 692. Okay, but even at 692, she's giving 188 EM to Yae versus 220 EM to Yae. The damage difference is as per what I've shown in the comparison section. Okay, no need for me to go through that again. But yeah, so these are all the stats that are involved here. Now let's look at the damage figures itself. So as per before, the 2TF2 Glad that I have has better stats because of the higher crit stats. We have 1.15 million here, done in 22 seconds, C6. I'm going to compare the maximum potential, but if you want to look at C0, C1, right, it's here. And assuming you have R1. In fact, I have R1 as well. I do have R5 Kaguya's Variety, but in terms of comparing the max potential, I'll talk about these figures. Like, personally, I am doing this. I will be doing this damage. And as expected, right, the EM sense is worse off than the 2 attack damage CD builds. Okay, in case you ask me about ER sense. Now, in this comp where Yae is the main, we have 1.15 million damage in 22 seconds, which is pretty good compared to 834k in Yae Tighnari AggraSpread comp. So in that dual DPS comp, Yae does do lesser because we try to spread our buffs, right, between Yae and Tighnari. But again, Yae Tighnari has 1.8 million damage added together because it's a dual DPS comp. Raiden without Banner or Sarah is unlikely to contribute enough to overtake this 1.8 million. Although it will be close, but I don't think it will be enough. Okay, especially if you have C2 Raiden. Obviously, if you don't have C2 Raiden, then you know this is definitely higher. Now, how about versus Yae in EC comp with Kazuha Kokomi Raiden, which is what we compared against previously, right? The Yae Tighnari, we compared against this EC comp as well. Because this EC comp is the original comp that I did in my earlier Yae Math guides back in beginning of 2022. So let's look at that damage as a recap. No difference, okay? Everything's the same from the previous math guides. Just so you know, we have the Kazuha stats here. This is what Kazuha buffs. I'm assuming R1 FS when we use R1 Kaguya's Variety. Kokomi is using TTODM with, Tenacity with TTODS. So it's kind of similar to Collei really. And Raiden does the same thing. Raiden's E buffs, Yae's Q. And you see the percentage difference. Before C6, you see that the percentage is different is actually pretty big. Right? It's pretty big. We got our 18% and 14% difference. Okay, if you don't talk about R5, then you know, even at C6 R1 is 6% difference. And all of this is this solo Dendro comp doing better than the EC comp. Okay? Even at C6 is still doing better, but it's only 2%. But prior to that, at C0, you already see quite a significant difference. You want to put things into perspective, 18% is like R1 to R5. Okay, it's like 2 constellations. It's not always the same, but yeah. Of course, obviously there are constellations with super high boost like Raiden C2, 43%. But yeah, I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. So, like I said, this math from my Yae math guide is done previously. Talent levels are not exactly matching also, so that's why the percentage difference here is slightly bigger as well. Which is why I keep talking about looking at C6, because C6 figure is the one where the talent levels are matching. Okay, now talent levels were not matching previously because Yae was released with a new boss, most likely. That's why I put the talent level at 8 and 11. Okay, but I do have a 1/12, which is the fair comparison. So 1/12, you get 6% R1, 2% difference at R5, with the solo Dendro comp doing better. Okay, and it's only at C6 that the difference become much closer, but to be fair, again, talent levels are not exactly matching. So let's just talk about the C6. Okay, now here's the thing. Yae Collei comp is 22 seconds. EC comp and Yae Tighnari comp are both 24 seconds. You see, the two comps that we talked about previously, Math Guide 4, Yae Math Guide 4, are both longer than this Yae Collei comp. So the Yae Collei comp, on top of the damage figure being better, the DPS figure is also going to be better. Let's look at the comparison, yeah? DPS comparison between Yae Collei comp and Yae EC comp. So this is the Yae Collei DPS. Now, previously I was showing you guys damage, right? Now this is the DPS figure, damage per second. And then you have the Yae EC figures as well. Get a percentage difference. If I take C6, right, to compare, which will be more fair, because you see more or less it will always be the same. The bigger difference here, the bigger difference here is really because of the talent levels not matching. Okay, so to be fair, let's look at the C6, and it's 14% at R1 and 10% at R5. And if in the Yae Collei comp, Yae's personal damage is better than in the EC comp, obviously she will do a lot better than the Yae in the Yae Tighnari comp as well. Because the Yae Tighnari comp is the lowest of the three. Because we have another DPS Tighnari in there. Although Raiden is also a DPS, but we are not full focus on Raiden. But in the Yae Tighnari comp, we are maximizing Tighnari's damage as well. So without doing the math to compare the 1.8 million damage in Yae Tighnari versus 1.15 million plus Raiden's damage in Yae Collei, it's hard for me to say which comp is the better overall DPS, but I do believe that the Yae Tighnari will have a slightly higher DPS, and on top of that, the main advantage is that his 1 million damage is like a surge / burst in 2 5-second window. Okay? I can't stress this enough. The reason why you think that C6 Yelan, why people think that C6 Yelan is in bar, Ayaka is in bar, is because they have a lot of front loaded damage that is done in a short second window. Okay? This is the same thing that Tighnari has. So it's gonna feel much better. Let me put it that way, it's gonna feel much better. I'm not saying that Raiden is bad, by the way. The overall team DPS, as you go through the rotation, I'm relatively certain that it's gonna be very close. But like I said, Tighnari has that surge / burst in the 2 5-second windows. So against certain enemies, you can wipe in there out in seconds. And by certain enemies, I don't mean small villagers or slimes, okay? I'm talking about stronger enemies. So that's that. Okay, but obviously if you don't want to pull for Tighnari because you want to save for Kusanali and you already have Raiden, you have Yae, you have Sucrose, then you know, just get the C0 Collei that we will get from the event in 3.0, the rumor, okay? and you're good to go with this comp, right? And Sucrose is much easier. It's much more F2P friendly than T2 Kazuha, for example. Obviously, if you have Kazuha, then that's that. But yeah, I hope you guys can see the potential that this Yae Collei comp brings to Yae's personal damage. And another thing is I'm using two TF2 clads here. If you use Gilded Dreams, Yae's damage will improve. And in the EC comp, you should still be using Thunder Silver. Think about it. No, actually Gilded Dreams will still be better. 8% damage bonus versus 28% attack. Yeah, the Gilded Dreams will also be better in the EC comp, it seems. Okay, but anyway, the main thing. Oh, wait. I think I did wrong math, right? I may have done the math wrongly. Sorry. For the Gilded Dreams, I may have done the math wrongly. I think it's 80 plus 50, 130 EM, and 28% attack. So the damage bonus is lesser than 7%. Sorry. But I remember that it's still matchable. Okay, anyway, don't worry about that. Don't worry about the Gilded Dreams. Let me do the math for that in another separate video. Then we have a proper analysis. Okay. So TLDR, in an Anemo Dendro 2x electro comp with the right buff setup, we can get 17 to 25% and 10 to 14% at C6 now. Remember that 17 to 25% is not exactly matching on the talent levels, so it may drop further, it may drop a bit more, but it should still be slightly more than the 10 to 14 here. Because with the C6 in no defense, then actually what I'm talking about, I think it might end up being the same, but with some slight nuances because of the skill level, etc. But I think this gives you a good idea, okay? 10 to 14 or 17 to 25. Either way, this is the range. It can't go more than that. It can't go less than that. So, that's the range. And this means that Yae's personal damage is very high in this comp. It's probably the best optimization of her personal damage. And basically, we are just replacing Hydro with Dendro. We are replacing Kokomi with Dendro. Oh, and Sucrose with Sucrose replacing Kazuha, at least for this math guide. Both are feasible. So this is very nice for Yae's already high DPS, and I would say that Sucrose is still the budget version for Kazuha, but her performance is much closer here, much better here due to Yae's EM skilling. So it's perfectly alright to use her to free up Kazuha for the second thing piece, or if you don't have Kazuha, just use Sucrose. Especially if you don't care about Raiden damage and you don't have FS for Kazuha. Oh right, when I was talking about the comparison, I think when you have Kazuha, this is where the Yae Collei comp will be closer to the Yae Tighnari comp. Okay? But without Kazuha, then how to say? It really depends on your Yae and your Raiden stats. Because Yae, if your Yae is super well built and your Raiden is super well built, then or one of them is not built, then there's a bigger difference to whether you are buffing Raiden or not. Okay, but personally, I will use Kazuha because R5 FS overriding RY allergy is still an increase in the attack percentage, and better buff to Raiden is better for overall team DPS. That's for me. But if I feel like using Kazuha in the second team Abyss, then I would use Sucrose as well. Now rotation, this is the rotation itself is very nice and simple, not much complication. Okay. Now if I'm using Kazuha instead of Sucrose action sphere as well, just replace Sucrose here with Kazuha. So when you do Sucrose EQ, you do Kazuha EQ. When you do Sucrose E, you do Kazuha E. Now, please refer to the respective sections for details on the important notes and assumptions, as well as the energy and yang requirements, the stats of Yae as well. Sorry. Okay, so of the three comps, Yae Tighnari, Yae single Dendro, which is Collei, and Yae EC, I would say Yae single Collei has the best performance for Yae DPS alone so far. I have not done math for overall team DPS because that requires a lot more effort. I need to do the math for all characters, right? All 4 characters. But to be honest, I'm inclined to think that Yae Tighnari will have an edge both in terms of the overall damage and also because of the fact that Yae's advantage is the 1 million damage surge / burst in 2 5-second windows. Remember, the reason why C6 Yelan feels so imba and Ayaka feels so imba is because they do a lot of front-loaded damage in a short second window. In a few seconds window. That's why they feel so strong. That's why they feel so OP. And Tighnari is built like that. Okay? But obviously Tighnari doesn't have off-field presence like the Yelan. And he doesn't really have good damage after his search window. Okay, but at least with this type of search damage available, this makes the comp strong, right? Against certain enemies, you could be wiping it out in seconds, as opposed to other comp that has more consistent damage. You take longer to clear those enemies. Although in the long run, the overall damage kinda evens out, but having nice surge of front-loaded damage is always nice. Okay. But if you only care about Yae's damage, you don't care about Tighnari damage, you don't want to build Tighnari, I can understand, right? It's painful to build another character. And Tighnari is not easy to build because I don't think Gilded Dreams is good for him. Doesn't feel that great for him as opposed to something like Wanderers. I've not done the math, but that's the feeling that I'm getting right now. Just looking based on my experience in math, etc. I may be wrong, so look out for the artifact comparison video in future. But if you only care about Yae's damage, then you now know which comp to go for and what stats / buff / builds to get to for the whole comp. Just refer to Yae 3, math card 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now, next video. It's either going to be Dendro Traveler, Dory, or we go back to Tighnari series. We'll probably go with the artifact comparison first, before I go into the Bloom related reactions. We also the EC with Dendro. That's doable as well. I mean that is basically both Bloom and Aggravate and Spread. It's a whole it's a whole myriad of reactions really. But most likely the next one will be Dendro Traveler. Why? Because I actually finished the Dendro Traveler map already. Yeah. That will come sorry. Something wrong with my throat. That will come soon. Okay? So either Dory or Tighnari after the Dendro Traveler or Dendro or DMC. I hope the content has been helpful to you guys, especially for you Yae mains out there or you guys who believe that Yae will become meta soon. I do believe so. Gilded Dream's gonna boost the damage. All the EM buffs is gonna boost the damage as well. So yeah, that's nice. If you like the content, remember to like video and click subscribe for more. Thanks around for watching. Bye.